George's on Vista is the local bistro at Fraser Rise in Caroline Springs, situated at the George Cross Soccer Club at City Vista Reserve. With the current COVID-19 pandemic, we've adjusted our menu and our business times. Bistro dining is back with 2 dining sessions Monday to Saturday between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Numbers are limited, so bookings are essential on 7021 0555. Head to georgesonvista.com.au to check out the menu and the dining times. We're also doing takeaway 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday. You can order your meal, kids' meals, or your favourite snack meals via email. info@georgesonvista.com.au or phone your order through on the night between 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on 7021 0555. Or better still, just rock up on the night and place your order. Visit georgesonvista.com.au to see the dine-in and takeaway menus and for business hours. Get behind local business and dine in or order your next takeaway dinner from George's on Vista, 46 City Vista Court, Fraser Rise, in the heart of Caroline Springs.
Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to you wherever you may be. You're welcome to the Football Out West show, and you are joining us here for episode 27. It's going to be an absolute humdinger of a show, and cannot wait to bring you all the latest that is going on. And as is always the case every week, and he's looking very, very snazzy tonight. He's looking very, very snazzy indeed. It is a pleasure to welcome my co-host, Craig Filer, to the microphone. Craig, goodness me. I'm going to put you on solo because look at the background. How good does that look? Oh, I tell you what, you've outdone yourself this time. Mate, what is that in the background?
Yeah, look, Tonci, we're having a bit of a play digitally, try and make things a little bit more professional week in, week out, and we've come up with a little screen that hopefully works, and hopefully that it's again, like I said, it's trying to take us a little bit more professional. So we've got a little green screen behind us, and we can put little images up. So just got to do you now. Just got to sort that bookcase out behind you.
Yeah, I'm starting to get used to every week in, week out, putting the books up, then putting the books down and what you're not. But nonetheless, it is quite snazzy, and it's all part and parcel of what we are trying to do here is professionalize our offering, and we're going to make a couple of errors along the way. But each week, our aim is to perfect our product, and progress is our motto, Craig. And in very much the same way,
we just got to sort the internet.
Yeah, exactly right.
We just got to sort everybody's internet out.
Yeah, we are in the third world after all, as far as technology here in Australia. But mate, episode 27, football in this country. We've got an agenda. We want to improve things. It's all about going forward. It's all about progress. And tonight, mate, we will be talking. Well, look, we'll be talking a lot tonight. Some of the things that are coming up on tonight's show and some of our guests as well. We will really be asking the hard questions, suggesting what can be done to improve our great game. Before we do that, we're going to get into the news desk, and there's some lots and lots happening from St Kilda Road. A lot of news coming out of FV headquarters. But in the meantime, what can we expect in tonight's show, my friend?
Well, of course, we start off with the news, and there's plenty to talk about in that section there. That'll take us up for probably 10 minutes. And sat in the green room already waiting for us is a great character. He was on the show not so long ago. Unfortunately, we run out of time. We've got the current Matildas Assistant Coach, as well as the upcoming assistant coach for the new A-League side, Macarthur FC.
And he's also a leading coach educator. Let's not forget that, because he'll be talking a lot about coaching today.
And that's what we're going to be focusing on tonight's show around about. And this our next week's show is all around coaching and player development and how we can enforce change on our coaches.
Yeah, no, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I can't wait for that. That's going to be really. It's going to be a great conversation tonight. Also, later on in the show, we are going to be joined by former Socceroo great, member of the Golden Generation, and none other than Craig Moore, who's another returnee. We've got two returnees, and this is a red letter day for the Football Out West show. We're getting two guests that are coming back that are returnees. They're almost making as many appearances on the Football Out West show as Mark Sultana, the president of George Cross, is. He's a regular returnee, and it's always great to have him. Speaking of which, it was a great show last week. He and Lisa Jurich came on the show to talk about George Cross FC. But tonight we want to hear from your club. What's happening at your club? There's a lot going on in the world of football. We really would like to see what is going on at your club. Have you started training? Have you restarted training? So much going on, Craig. And, what else are we going to be talking about? Anything else as well?
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk, obviously, with Craig Moore coming on. We'll touch on that, what Craig's coming in for. He's got a fantastic plan as part of the Golden Generation about how football can be seen, or their proposal for how football can be viewed going forward. It's a great idea. And if you haven't jumped on already, jump on the Golden Generation Facebook page and log into their website and keep up to date with all the news and gossip coming from the Golden Generation, who are trying to make a bit of a stir within football within Australia, as we all know.
I think they're already doing a great job creating a stir. And you know what? I'd love to be able to say that we started it. Maybe we did. Maybe you folks out there in Facebook Live land started it. But a lot of the debate, a lot of the discussion that has originated right here on this show is what's being talked about. We've talked about dialogue. We've talked about strategic plans. We've talked about the COVID lockdown period being the perfect time to start addressing some fundamental issues in our game that need to change. One of those things that we brought up on this show that we spoke to about with John Aloisi, who's another member of the Golden Generation, was the idea of a subscription-based type TV service that would potentially cover all of football from elite to grassroots, and something that we, I guess, are lacking at the moment. Well, Craig Moore's going to be talking about that very concept, what he's calling FFA-TV. I am so excited, and I can't wait to be discussing that with Craig a little later on in the show. But firstly, Craig, I think we might take a little bit of a break because we've got a news desk coming up very shortly, haven't we?
We have, yeah, but there's plenty to talk about in there, Tonch.
Yeah, so don't go away. Okay, Craig, what's happening in the world of news?
So I suppose we start with Football Federation. They've been very busy this week. We've complained over the last, certainly in the last, on Sunday evening show, there was a lot of complaints, confusion around the amount of communication that's coming out from our governing body. But it certainly seems as though we've caused a bit of a problem in the hornet's nest, shall we say? And they've come out twice today with two updates on the return into football or return into play strategy that we got. And firstly, the first one came up early this morning. Tonch, what have we got on that? Well,
isn't it funny? Like, we had four callers, 4 or 5, I can't remember how many, on Sunday nights, the Football Fan Zone. And they were all pretty much in agreement that we weren't getting enough clear information from Football Victoria and not enough information. Since then, we've been bombarded literally with almost a daily briefing. So caps off to Football Victoria and whoever's listening in, because guess what? They've really come through with the goods. Now, look, the first update that came around lunchtime, I think, was stage 2, return to training conditions. The overview there was that the first stage was a limited return to training from the 18th of May. The second stage is an extension to the number of players who can train. Details were announced by the state government on the 2nd and 3rd, and this document will be effective as of the 4th, which is today. Now, this document, this stage 2 phase, we knew that it sort of started as of the 1st of June, but there has been a slight amendment, no, a major amendment, if you like, but there is a catch, I guess, and it's got to do with pretty much, it's basically got to do with canteens or something like that, Craig.
Yeah, I think it's about getting canteens open and start the process for getting back to some kind of normality, which is what we've been harping on about for weeks and weeks now, about getting some back to some kind of normality. And you can see from what Tonci's put on screen there that they're the stage 2 return into training conditions. What else have we got there, Tonci?
So that is on the Football Victoria website. So if you do click on the Football Victoria website, it's got all of that. You can download it. It's a PDF document. There's a fair bit there. There is quite a fair bit that actually says there. We won't go through too much. The main thing is that finally clubs now have an opportunity to make some sort of money. And there is an ability, and I'm going to watch my words carefully here. There is an ability to have clubhouse canteens open, but like with everything to do with restrictions, everything has got to do with firstly getting the okay from the council. And I am aware that there are some councils around Victoria that at the moment aren't yet ready for that. And look, it's each individual municipality or council, I suppose, is going to be determine. Yeah, absolutely. So in the end, they will make the final determination whether or not that's going to proceed or it's not going to proceed, I guess. So look, It's a big document. We're not going to go through here because we've got so many other documents to go through. But it was quite a very good step in the right direction. But the big one, the really big one, is the letter that came out. Well, I think it was mid-afternoon.
4:30.
4:30. There we go. And that was an update on the competition structures, the fee relief, and the refund proposals. Tell us more, Craig.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting document, actually, and I'll read most of it out for you, so you get it for those that haven't seen it. So
we'll put it up on screen as well for those that
Victoria is pleased to confirm that proposed competition structure for 2020 relief and refund proposals have been sent to clubs today. The fee relief and refund proposals sent to date include approximately $1 million in reductions, including over $600,000 for community competitions. Relief packages across all tiers of football have been funded by foregoing of registration and participation fees that would have otherwise been payable to Football Federation for participation in the 2020 competitions. It goes on to say the packages are aimed at supporting the safe return of football at all levels, ensuring the viability of the 355 clubs and the game in Victoria more broadly. Proposals are based on the expected season length of each tier of competition, and then it tells you to return to the
and there's a link there
earlier on. Now, as we spoke about on Sunday on the show, Tonch, all clubs in the NPL received the initial proposal based on self-funding within the NPL revenues, and as we touched on Sunday, the document came out as we were on air, and the headlines were NPL 1 teams are to get $160,000. That's the headline. And when you go into the small print of what it actually is, they're actually paying for it themselves. So as part of their involvement and their fees for registration, which is around $25,000, out of that $25,000. The Football Federation are actually giving them back $160,000. So it's a self-funding. It's not coming out of the coffers that we pay as stakeholders into the Football Federation. So based on a self-funding within NPL revenues with cross-subsidization from other levels of football, it is noted this tier of football is impacted more than any other due to the current situation restrictions on crowds and further The offer will cease if the government enables gatherings of more than 300 people.
Now, it goes on to say senior state leagues will receive a 20% reduction on team entry and registration fees. And I guess, Craig, that was probably one of our, criticisms at the time. Maybe not just ours, but, a lot of the people out there now saying, but what about everyone else? And look, I'll bring that letter up. There's the letter. That was an actual letter to the senior men's president. So I guess it wasn't for public knowledge, but, obviously in this day and age, we're able to get our hands on some of those copies and things like that. And people then start, I guess, jumping to wrong conclusions if they're not getting the information. Thankfully, today we're getting a lot more of that information. And look, here we go. With senior state leagues, as we said, receive a 20% reduction. The big one is the women's game, which is I wholeheartely support this, because that is a very, very fragile element of our game. And I'll talk about that in a sec. But in support of our Football Ways strategic goals, we have extended the level of support for the women's game at senior community level to include 100% team entry reductions and 50% registration fee reductions. Now, the position on junior and other community competitions such as All Abilities, Men's, Metro and Masters is still under review. Craig, women, they've been getting 50%. There's someone say, there's no equality. The men only get 20%. The women are between 50 and 100. But that is such a brilliant move, because the women's part of our game is still at a very, very fragile state, because we don't have the numbers. Yeah. We don't have the ingrained culture, whereas men have been playing, in an organised way for close to 100 years, and we've got that culture. I know close to home, my little girl this was going to be her second year, and the longer and longer we went without playing competition, without going training, they were going to lose interest. And it's my daughter's team has been ravaged, and this is at under 11 level, ravaged by girls just losing interest.
I think it's a really good concept from Football Federation. I'm sure Simon Camilleri will be on the page tonight commenting on that, because I know he's involved with the under 14s at Westside Strikers. So I'm sure he'll have a view on that. But look, it's great. My daughter's just left. She's gone training tonight, so it's a great offer now for women's football and girls football to continue. And I suppose, as you said then, Tonch, the worry was that there wasn't going to be a girls and women's structure because of the ongoing situation. So
the one flip side of all this, Craig, though, because it's saying it's a $1 million valued support for the clubs and this and that. That $1 million is basically going to be financed from reduction in registrations, reduction in team fees, and et cetera. Yep. But here's another point. All Football Victoria competition staff have returned to full-time work to prepare for the commencement of the season. There are others as well that are returning to full-time duties. We've been saying we haven't been getting much information. We've been saying that Football Victoria hasn't been doing a lot. And one of those reasons is because they have been under-resourced. I have it on good knowledge that a lot of the Football Victoria personnel were being paid to work 1 day a week. Now, 1 day a week, you cannot get a lot done. So where eventually is the money going to come to cover all this? That'll be interesting, but hopefully they've got enough cash reserves built up, and hopefully they are getting some funding from the state government and support from the state government, because the clubs themselves, Craig, are able to get some form of assistance package, if you like.
Yeah, look, it's a start. Look, I think there'll still be people that will moan and groan, but $1 million, guys, that they're giving, 20% fees, 100% for women's, and not only that, in another part of the document, referees who've contributed to MPL proposals, they're going to take a 25% discount on the senior game day match fees.
That's a lot. That is significant, isn't it?
And MPL. And that's great news as well. So, it looks like everybody's now starting to pull in the right direction of trying to get ready for commencement in July. And I'm sure, this won't be the last document we'll have this week, and there'll be further updates as we go throughout the week.
No, it's a step in the right direction. I'm publicly going to congratulate people involved in the sport, from Football Victoria, the administrators, the clubs and the coaches. I mean, Simon Camilleri, speaking of Simon Camilleri, says Westside Strikers have commenced restricted training yesterday. It was great to get back on the pitch, blah, 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 blah. Any more girls interested in joining an under-14 girls 2019 champions team? A little bit of self-promotion there. Well done, Simon. But Craig, you've also come back training with your team. My little whippersnippers or whatever you call them, they'll be coming back tomorrow. So bit by bit, things are now starting to come back to normality. And look, to all the clubs, to all the coaches, to all the parents out there, fantastic job what you guys are doing. And, adhering to the rules, because it's not easy. It's not easy.
No, it isn't. And it's for those that are coaching in ways that we've never had to coach before is very difficult. You were fortunate to see my training session last night. I was impressed. It's difficult when you're trying to keep a group of 16-year-old boys away from one another, but they did it very well last night, and the session actually was probably one of the best we've had.
Was it really? Honestly, I was really impressed, and I just made a comment to the guy that I was working with there. We were staff members there, and I actually just said, I don't know if it's the fact that everyone is just so glad to be back. And look, mate, there was just smiles. We're talking about the Leisure Time Sports Precinct in Geelong, by the way, the synthetic pitch there. Everyone was just filled with smiles. Everyone was so happy. The parents stuck. They dropped the kids off. They didn't come in. They weren't being difficult, any of that sort of stuff. The boys themselves were absolutely fantastic. So, you know what? You step out on that pitch, and my playing days are well behind me, but geez, you want to pull on the boots when you step on after a long time and you think, far out, this is so good.
Yeah, no, it's great, and look, we're slowly getting back to where we all want to be. So long may it continue, and long as we don't get a second string over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure we'll be back playing competitive football before we know it.
Absolutely. Now we've got a lot of people coming on board and commenting, so appreciate your comments. We're going to put a couple of these comments up. Maxi Santich, a big fan of the show, he says, brilliant for the women's football, and that's what the Football Victoria have come out and saying. Chris Briffa says, hey, Tonge, it's not just football, but in all sports that girls lose interest. They struggle to keep them for a number of reasons. Yeah, true, Chris. That's a good point. I don't care about the other sports. Who cares about the other sports? I think AFL is the most stupid game for females. In fact, for males as well. I think they should all be playing football. Netball, no one wants to know about netball or basketball. They should all be playing the round ball. Isn't that right, Craig?
It is, absolutely. And
that's what we stand for.
We laugh about that, but I had a look through Facebook last night, and apparently the Western and the Eastern or the Northeastern AFL season has been cancelled.
Yes, so let's talk about that. Important. Yeah, let's talk about that, because the AFL and the netball seasons competitions, particularly in country Victoria, are often tied together. Now, if we can play our cards right, if football can play our cards right, folks, we have got a massive boost for our sport, where we can get a lot. We can play through into the summer. We can get a lot of those female AFL players or netballers or basketballers who are unable to play their sports because the kids just want to do something. And at the moment,
there we go, Simon. There's one for you, Simon. You can go and get all those girls that won't be playing AFL in the North districts. There's your 14. There's your 14 team, mate.
Simon, you might have 3 under 14 teams, not just one. If we could play our cards right. No, absolutely. This is a moment, and we've been saying it. If we play our cards right, all around the country, football, Craig, and good folks at home, football can really launch into a stratosphere that we haven't been before. So it's all up to us. We got to do it together. We really need to do this smart and stick together, not stick the knives into each other, because even that's happening with a few people involved in football. But let's not talk about that. Shall we bring our first guest on?
Yeah, before we go on, I just want to say one more thing, and it'd be good to get your thoughts if you're a Melbourne Victory fan. Obviously a lot of going on at the club at the moment with the coach leaving. And today was announced that your captain, Ollie Toivonen, he's decided to part ways with the club. And I'm of the understanding that Andrew Nabu has also left the club, going west to Perth Glory. So interesting to see what the Melbourne Victory fans are thinking as we're coming into the latter stages of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are a Melbourne Victory supporter, if you're a Western United supporter, and if you are a Melbourne City supporter or of any other club, drop us a comment in the comment section. We want to know what is going on with your club, whether it be here, whether it be overseas. There's a lot of leagues in Europe kicking off as we speak. So it is going to be a very, very interesting weekend coming up. But on the other side of the break, we've got a very, very interesting guest. Don't go away.
George's on Vista is the local bistro at Fraser Rise in Caroline Springs, situated at the George Cross Soccer Club at City Vista Reserve. With the current COVID-19 pandemic, we've adjusted our menu and our business times. Bistro dining is back with 2 dining sessions Monday to Saturday between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Numbers are limited, so bookings are essential on 7021 0555. Head to georgesonvista.com.au to check out the menu and the dining times. We're also doing takeaway 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday. You can order your meal, kids' meals, or your favourite snack meals via email. info@georgesonvista.com.au or phone your order through on the night between 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on 7021 0555. Or better still, just rock up on the night and place your order. Visit georgesonvista.com.au to see the dine-in and takeaway menus and for business hours. Get behind local business and dine in or order your next takeaway dinner from George's on Vista, 46 City Vista Court, Fraser Rise, in the heart of Caroline Springs.
Welcome back to the Football Out West show. You're joining Craig Filer and myself, Tonci Prusak. And we've got a very, very special guest, and he's joining us tonight. A very, very big warm welcome to Mr. Ivan JOLIC, who's making a return to the show. Ivan, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Tonci. Great intro. Pleasure to be back, and g'day, Craig. How are you?
Ivan, very good, mate.
Now, Ivan, it's since we last had you on here, geez, so much has changed, hasn't it? But you've been working very, very hard. In fact, you've been working hard just moments before you came onto this show, where you were having a Zoom conference with something like 100 coaches in the one session. Goodness me, tell us a bit more about that.
It was, I suppose, it's the way of the future. You know, Zoom meetings. So I've got a colleague that was that's a current TD, and he said, Ivan, would you be prepared to come on and share your experiences and so forth in coaching and bringing a playing style to life? And I did do it, and I had no idea that there'd be about 93 or 94 people on there, but thoroughly engaging. And once again, it just proves that, you know, there's many different forms of education we can get through now all around the globe. So it was a wonderful opportunity. My head's still spinning, so I do apologise if I'm a bit flat today, but I'll do my best, Tonci and Craig.
Good man. We're going to touch on a few of the comments that you made there today about online learning, because I know it's very dear to our hearts. So we're certainly going to touch on that. And as we said, tonight's show is really all about coach education. But we're going to start off, I think, by just touching on the Matildas. You are the current assistant coach of the Matildas, and that must be a great privilege to be involved with that group of players at the moment. Talk us through how things are going. Obviously we've got the World Cup proposal coming to Australia and New Zealand. That'll be fantastic if that comes to fruition. So just talk us through the Matildas and what's happening in that world.
Well, it's sort of an interesting period, as you know, Craig. Obviously, you're still trying to engage with your players and try to continue some form of education and development. We're in regular contact with the team. We have a weekly meeting with them. we want to know how they're tracking. We want to continue to monitor their wellness, both mental and physical. So there's actually a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. Unfortunately, the things we love to do is get out on the track, both as players and coaches, and that hasn't been possible. But that being said, there's a very exciting period coming up for Australian football fans and the women's game, and that is the imminent announcement of the 2023 World Cup. All the information we're getting out from headquarters is that they're very comfortable with their submission and proposal. I'm led to believe that there's a technical report coming out on how well Australia's presented and pitch, how well their pitch was received, and shortly after that there will be vote. So I think the region, the Australia-New Zealand region, through this pandemic has shown a really good ability of managing crisis and managing various parts that are going to be critical when you're hosting an event as huge as the Women's World Cup. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, Ivan, I'm not sure if you're aware of when the proposal was submitted, but has the Australia-New Zealand, the ANZAC bid, has that had an opportunity to kind of update its proposal in view of the I guess the brilliant management, the social management that both Australia and New Zealand have done in the past couple of months with regards to the COVID crisis?
To be honest, Tonci, I'm not privy to that information, but I would have thought if you're heading up the delegation and you're looking to promote yourself, you'd be mad not to get on the front foot and get onto the FIFA guys and say, have a look at what we're doing. Have a look at the curve. It's flattened. We're managing it, and we're now got a rescue or a reintegration sort of policy and strategy moving forward, where much of football and life in and around Australia and New Zealand is slowly returning back to normal.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And if you're part of the committee that's making the decision, you surely got to look at that and what's happening around the world in Brazil. Because who are the other candidates? Brazil.
Well, I'm not. Again, I've spent a lot of time in that space, but I think Japan's also having a look, and there'll be others. But the stability, the governance, the facilities, and all of those things, I would have thought that stack into our favour, as well as having a joint bid with someone across two confederations. So us being part of the Asian Confederation, and the New Zealanders being part of Oceania, I think is seen very, very favourably.
Yeah, Ivan, your gut feeling. Last time we went for a World Cup, the situation was hopefully the situation was completely different, because you'd like to think that we do stand a chance. I mean, obviously we're going to be biased. We're going to say we've got the best bid and everything, but I guess you're probably more aware than most people. What's your gut feeling say? Do we really stand a good chance?
I think so. I honestly do. And again, I can't be assured of anything in life, but I can tell you that all of the communications from the FFA headquarters through to the players, the staff, also from within the PFA through to the players, is that we're a real chance. As you know, you never know in football, just like any game of football. So I think the most important thing is, are we comfortable, and are our stakeholders comfortable with the submission they've made, and making sure that no stone is left unturned? And from all reports, they've pitched really, really strongly. And I know when the FIFA delegation was out here that they were quite impressed with our facilities and our plan. We also took on the Olympic qualifiers on really short notice, through the COVID pandemic. And that was sort of in and around the time that FIFA guys were here. And, our capacity to just turn on a tournament, a major international tournament, quickly and run it as successfully as it was, is a credit to all of the people within our game.
No, fantastic, and it'd be really, really superb if we could host the World Cup. So fingers crossed.
Before we move on to the next point, Ivan, what will that, in your opinion, do to the women's game?
It's a massive injection. Massive injection, and I was fortunate enough, guys, to go to a Women's World Cup in Europe last year, and just the magnitude and size of the event, and it just encapsulates all of the world. It's incredible, and it's not, you know, it might be called the Women's World Cup, but every football follower around the globe takes an interest, you know, from Asia to Africa, all around. So in terms of what it would do to us, it brings a truly global sporting event of a huge magnitude to us, and promotes not only us and our football and our cultures, but our country as a whole. So the net effect of us having a World Cup economically would be terrific. The net effect for our sport and the boost it will give, once again, a shot in the arm to participation numbers, and then government investment. You know, I genuinely believe our governments, you know, see us as a bit of a poorer cousin, but when you've got the ability to showcase your country to the world like no other code or no other sport outside maybe the Australian Open and to a certain degree the F1 Grand Prix, a month-long tournament here where you are front and centre on every global newspaper and so forth, the governments and state and federal governments will start to invest, and that can only help our code.
Oh, absolutely. Craig?
We'll move on. Well, I've touched on it, the Matildas there. We want to really delve now into to coach education. I know that's a real bugbear for you. You've been very much part of the Football Federation of Australia's coach educator program as a coach educator. In your opinion, Ivan, where are we with coach education in this country, given the fact that for 4 months, most people have been stuck to their houses, not allowed out to do any coaching, not allowed to go and do any coach qualifications? Have we missed an opportunity here to do some online? You've just said you've been online for this evening to 100 coaches in Singapore. Why couldn't we have done those sort of things here with our coach education team for the coaches to develop our coaches through this period?
It's a fair question and a tough one, because ultimately, a lot of the time, I'll always say before casting an opinion, and in particular mine, you need to understand the context, and the context is it's complex. You know, we're part of an AFC. Part of the AFC, and our coach education needs to be signed off by the AFC. So there's a bit of bureaucracy to get these things up. Rest assured, if we go back to the start of the question, where are we with coach education? I firmly believe that our coach education is continually evolving. And I can say, honestly, being in the national teams, that the people that are, you know, leading our coach educators, you know, like people like Sean Douglas and Anthony Frost, they are in continual communication with the national team staff across men's, women's, juniors and seniors. And the reason they're linked into a lot of what we do and our reviews and so forth is to make sure that, you know, we're giving them what's happening at the coalface and some trends that we experience, and then they bring that and hopefully can share those experiences and build a coach education platform which can then continue to improve our offering and bring us up to speed with best practice. So from that point of view, I think the communication lines with what's actually happening in the world game and what we then deliver to our coaches is quite good. They're very receptive and open to changes. In terms of the online platform, I think there's a huge opportunity for everyone to move closer to what our universities are doing. We've seen universities moved into an on-learning platform to make it even more accessible, maybe even drive some costs out. And I know for a fact that the FFA are working closely on trying to expand their offering in the area. Unfortunately, it never happens quick enough. So I know that they've had a range of, you know, Zoom type of seminars. Is it a lost opportunity? Well, you know, in hindsight, we'll look back and go, oh, it would have been really good that we could have prepared for this. But unfortunately, there wasn't the time to prepare. I'd like to think that the FFA is moving towards, you know, making it more accessible, making it easier, making it cheaper. I know these things are all part of their mandate. So hopefully in the future, Craig, and I do know that they're working on it.
Yeah, look, I mean, when we had you on last, Ivan, and since then, I mean, 5 weeks, 6 weeks have elapsed. So much has changed. We really, really lamented the lack of online presence for our coaches or online coaching learning opportunities But Craig, next week we're going to have two gentlemen from the player development program who will be talking a little bit more about that as well. But they offer a lot of that kind of stuff. And there seem to be, in the last month in particular, lots of webinars, lots of seminars. But it's that one fundamental thing, I guess, that we're looking at, the coaching accredited courses, the C license, B license, A license, the community courses, etc. That is the one thing that is lacking at the moment. And Ivan, you've got a really interesting personal story to tell about that. Like when you were actually, you weren't able to attend a course, and so if you had to now wait until the next time that course rocked around. That wouldn't be the situation if we had online learning available to us.
No, look, and they're the challenges we had. So the way these courses are structured, there's obviously protocols that must be followed. So, I started another course with the FFA, and thankfully, I was on it, but unfortunately I couldn't actually commence it because I had to miss a module. So that lack of flexibility, and maybe I was one of the first ones to experience what I did, and as a result, hopefully the FFA, and I do know that they're sort of taken up, and that is to make sure that they are flexible, because one thing that I'm always conscious of is the best form of coach education for any coach is to actually be coaching. Yep. But we need to make sure that the coach education courses, when they're delivered, are actually flexible enough and can be bespoke enough to actually be able to facilitate coaches who can't make it because they're coaching. So the coach, there's some structures in place now which aren't as flexible as what they probably would like, the FFA would like to be. But again, they're working towards that. But it was disappointing. I'm being frank. Like I was coaching at a World Cup, miss a module, but I can't start that course now. We have to get in line with the rest of the world. There's CEOs, there's really high-powered directors in places who can now pick and choose when they can go on to modules of, their master's degrees and PhDs, and that's where this is heading. And I think if we can get there quick enough, I think we could really start to generate good money from it, because you start to open up your courses and your borders to people abroad.
But the other thing, though, by offering that type of online module as well, you're probably cutting out a lot of costs. So, in effect, you could probably then keep the cost of the actual courses themselves down, hence adding to that accessibility, correct?
100%. And that being said, though, with everything, it's just like coaching. You gain something and you lose something. So, yes, you gain accessibility. Yes, you gain... maybe you're reducing costs because of overheads and so forth, but you lose something else, and that is the human interaction. I've gone on to courses, and I can say that, the human interaction during lunchtimes, during in between modules, or in the evening on live-in courses, they're fabulous. Like when you sit down with people, or can sit down with Craig or you at a course, and you share your experiences, but you can't do that on a Zoom module. So, you gain stuff and you lose stuff, and getting that balance right is critical to ensure that we continue to be, one of the leaders in coach education.
We're talking to leading coach educator, the current assistant coach of the Matildas, and also the future, the current coach of the future A-League side, Macarthur FC, Ivan JOLIC. Ivan, it's an absolute pleasure having you, and having you for the second time on this show. This is absolutely fantastic. Coaching mentoring, something that's very, very close to your heart. And Craig, we've heard this time and time again from a lot of coaches that have come on here, and even some of the people that have come on our talkback shows. Once you've done the course, there seems to be no support in place, no mentoring. Ivan, you actually are heavily involved in that side of things. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, look, I do run a little business that, I enjoy doing, but I suppose let's give it some context. And that is that when I was a coach educator, we deliver what we think is a pretty good course whilst we have the coaches. And I'll always say it's not important what happens in your development when I'm there. I know what's happening when I'm there. It's when I'm not there that matters the most. And ultimately, coaches feel a bit sort of on the own and isolated after a course, and I think it's critical that you do have a critical friend or a mentor to ensure that you continue to grow as a person, be it as a player or as a coach. And I think that is one of the shortcomings, not only Australia's coach education, but globally. I don't know, I haven't heard of anyone who has a mentoring process or an ongoing development, professional development sort of arm linked into coach education, which ensures that there is ongoing development for that coach after they come into a course. And it's like doing a maths class, but the teacher, then you don't see her for 3 months and you just ask the kids, well, I've given it to you. So it's that gradual and incremental learning and support that's needed. And that's where football clubs and senior hierarchy at football clubs need to acknowledge that and provide education, ongoing education through technical directors, and provide an environment which is supportive and growth. How many of our coaches go on a C licence? They're going to make mistakes. That's normal. I went to a World Cup. I made mistakes. It's normal. The problem is how many of the current environments are supportive of that and acknowledge that this is part of the learning. And we lose so many coaches because there's a lack of support, one, within their environment, and two, from, a coach education stream.
Well, often when you attend a business conference, sorry, Craig, I was just going to say, when you attend a business conference, what's the statistic? As soon as you come out of the conference, you've lost about 50% of what you've forgotten 50% of what you've learned. A week later, you've lost about 80%. A month later, I think it's like 95%. So if you don't have that flow, that follow-up mentoring or guidance or something like that, that's going to prompt you to do some of the things that you learned at the course, you're going to forget it. It's almost like you've wasted that money. Sorry, Craig, I interrupted you.
No, I want to touch on, because you mentioned it there, Ivan, in your speech. Technical directors, could they play a more active role in the coach education side once you've got your certification, you've been on a coaching course, you've gone back to your clubs? For me, it's a lot of coaches. I see a lot of coaches that have got this C license and are then just thrown to the wall and say, right, you've got your license, now go and coach. Well, actually, that's the start of the process, isn't it?
Absolutely. Technical directors play a pivotal part, and ultimately, from what I've seen at NPL level, and this is a generic statement, it's not specific to one club, it's not a blanket statement, but from what I see, the technical directors aren't actually fulfilling the role that I would see a technical director doing. What is the best practice technical director? Well, that should be someone who's experienced enough and an educator, providing an environment and bringing the vision and philosophy of that club to life. Right, and ultimately, clubs and senior directors at clubs need to value a technical director in the first instance, and I'm not sure that's the case. But these same clubs are all chasing another set of coaches come the end of the season, leading into a new season, because they all leave. So it's just this vicious cycle where invest in a good technical director, provide a supportive, growing environment. There's going to be some pain and maybe cost you even more in the first instance, but through that environment, coaches won't leave. And then in the long run, you've made an investment, right? But I honestly believe technical directors have a huge role to play. I just don't know that they're currently fulfilling the role that they should be. And from what I hear, a lot of it is just administrative stuff that they get caught up in.
In your experience, Ivan, do you find technical directors who are external from the club, i.e., they don't have a child playing at the game, or they're not actually from that club and maybe have a vested interest? Do you find that technical directors that come from outside the club tend to do a better job or a worse job because they don't understand the culture of the club, or is it just purely down to the individual itself?
I'd say it's an individual. I'd say.
I knew he was going to say that.
I honestly do. And in the end, what I say is that irrespective of the person you employ as a football club, I think the first thing you need to do is, one, you need to interview candidates and ensure that you have a person who fits the values and beliefs of your football club. And conversely, when you're a technical director or a candidate coming in for a job, the first thing you should ask is, what do you as a club stand for? what is your vision and philosophy for the technical director? And then what is your role and responsibility? So how many technical directors would have a clearly defined job description? So at the end of the day, if you don't have this grand vision, which is a vision and philosophy and the values and beliefs of a football club, and then you don't have a clearly defined job description where there's clearly defined roles and responsibilities, then what the hell are you doing? I honestly wouldn't know what to do on my first day at work. I don't know where the goalposts are, and I don't know what I'm doing with other coaches or the club.
But isn't the role then of that technical director then to go and implement that strategy? So,
and again,
give him the autonomy to say there's going to be some pain, there's going to be some mistakes, but we've sat down, you've taken me on because I fit your values and what you're looking to do. Now let me do it in a way that's going to bring everybody together.
And again, that's the acceptance of both parties.
What I see is a technical director going into a job because he's a technical director and he's got a license that makes him able to have that, because all clubs have to have a TD. But there's not many good TDs around. I think we spoke, I'm not sure whether it was on the show that you were on last time, where George Cross, technical director, George Gero, was on, and he's come into the club there, looked at the philosophy of what the club want, and has been given autonomy to go and do his job. Granted, he's in full-time employment there, but he's been given the autonomy to go and do the job and develop the young players and the coaches around him. And I'm sure over time, the success of that club will be based on round what's happened this season that'll take them into the next season and the next season. Give people the opportunities to do so.
Well, Craig, it's the usual thing of any organisation, and the football clubs are structured and should be operating like any organisation. They've got incoming money and outgoings. And what I say is you employ people based on their skill set, because generally that's what you need. You're buying skills. So what I say is if you're employing an expert, a technical director, you're employing him for a reason. He's an expert in a certain field. And if you're paying him, can you just allow him to do his job? Set some goals, set some targets so that he has some key performance indicators that you can, put times and make it timely so that, we can catch up in 3 months, 6 months at the end of the year and make him and hold him or her to account. But ultimately, I think it's what you say, Craig, and that is that a lot of clubs are short-sighted, narrow-minded. They do things because they have to, not because they see the value in it. And ultimately, if you don't see the value in it, you're destined for failure. And I'll always maintain one thing: it costs you more in the long run.
Yeah. I just want to bring up a comment. We talk about George Gero, who's actually had involvement in football Victoria level, being involved in development and coaching, leadership and education. Yeah. So I mean, you're talking about a high caliber person who's being involved in the club. His president, Mark Sultan, has just put up a comment there in the comment section. George, great asset. I want to bring to your attention that word asset. It's not an expense. It's not a chore. It's an asset. So that's a great example of a club that is treating its technical director as an asset, not as, well, the Federation tells us we got to have one, so we better put someone down on paper, or we'll just put someone and we'll get him to do, empty the bins out, or he can coach one of the other teams when there's no coach there, or he can do this, or he can do that. It's an asset. An asset is there designed to help you build your brand, build your business. That sums it up. That sums up the positivity of a club that really wants to go somewhere. So congratulations, well done to him.
Yeah, and there are lots of clubs out there like that, Tonci. They're not every club is bad. Not every bad technical director. There are some really good ones out there.
We want to hear from some of those clubs, don't we, Craig?
Sorry?
We want to hear from some of those clubs. We want you. If you're one of those clubs, pop it down in the comments section. We want to know about your technical director and some of the great things that he's doing at your club. Craig,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Finally, for part one of the show, and we're going to get our second guest on very, very shortly. Ivan, you're going to stay on the screens if you will. But I just want to touch on the Macarthur FC project. Now, obviously, you're heavily involved with the Matildas at the moment, but when does your role officially start with Macarthur? And where are Macarthur in terms of planning for next season?
Yeah, so we've very much started in earnest quite a few months ago, Craig. Sort of myself, Ante, and Mel in Pombiato, who's also another Victorian who's heading up the football department there. So we've literally commenced. COVID has put a bit of have stalled us a little, only because of the unknown. We've made some significant signings a few months ago, and ultimately, we're not in a position to announce that, primarily because the current season needs to complete. But we're a new club, so there's so much work to do. So there's training venues, there's equipment, there's staffing, there's players, all of those things. Where there's a kit supplier. All of these things are spinning plates in the background that we're currently working on feverishly, and as well as we can, given the uncertainty with next season and where it'll start and where the salary cap will be. But we need to tick off those boxes, because when it does start, we're all fully aware that the existing clubs, they can literally press a switch and turn on.
Yeah,
we can't. So we just need to make sure that in a truncated pre-season, which it will be moving into next season, we have the basics ready to go, or at least the platform and foundation set, so that we can get going to be ready for round one. Because the club's an exciting club. They're a proud club in a very proud region, and we'll have some teething problems in the first little while, but people will demand success in the football heartland of New South Wales, which is the southwest.
Fantastic, Ivan. Well, we look forward to do hang around. I know you're probably really, really knackered having been on that Zoom conference, but we really appreciate having your input. Now, before we do take a break, and before we bring our ex-Socceroo legend and member of the Golden Generation, Craig Moore, onto the show, if any interested coaches want to know more about some of the mentorship that you do offer and some of the services you offer, how can they best contact you?
Oh, look, the email's rolling down there, and look, I do it. I've got a small stable of players and coaches who'd like to grow, of all levels. I've got some mums that just wanted some assistance. They're coaching their kids at under 12, and I work with some A-League professionals, both staff and players, who just want to have a growth and a professional development plan in place, ongoing. So anyone who's interested, just contact me on the email below, and I'll be more than happy to help. It's a passion of mine as opposed to much more. But I've had some really good results and built some really solid relationships with my mentees. And like I said, they're from all levels, and I just enjoy doing it. And it gives me a really nice, welcome shift from my day-to-day rigours as a coach in the performance area.
We've been talking to Ivan JOLIC, assistant to Ante Milicic with the Matildas, and he's also going to be the assistant up there at Macarthur FC. Now, that email again to contact Ivan, elitefootballmentoring@gmail.com. elitefootballmentoring@gmail.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this break. We'll be joined by former Socceroo great Craig Moore.
George's on Vista is the local bistro at Fraser Rise in Caroline Springs, situated at the George Cross Soccer Club at City Vista Reserve. With the current COVID-19 pandemic, we've adjusted our menu and our business times. Bistro dining is back, new dining sessions Monday to Sunday between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Numbers are submissions are essential on 7021-045. Book georgesonvista.com.au to check out the menu and the dining times. We're also doing takeaway 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday. You can order your meal, 6 meals, or your favourite snack meal via iPad. info@georgesonvista.com.au, or phone your order through on the night between 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on 7021-055. Or better still, just rock up on the night to place your order. Visit georgesonvista.com.au to see the dine-in and takeaway menus and the business hours. Yes, And finally, for audio next from George's on Vista, 46 City Vista Court, Fraser Rise, in the heart of Caroline Springs.
Welcome back to the Football Out West show. It's episode 27. Craig and myself, Tonci, are joined by Ivan JOLIC. And gentlemen, it's time to bring on our next guest. Craig, do you want to do the honours? Have we lost Craig? Craig, have you plugged your microphone in?
Turn myself off, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, he done it again.
Yes, done it again every week. Every week. So no, listen, we're very grateful to get Craig on. I know he's very busy at the moment with lots going on with the golden generation, Optus Sports, and everything that's going. But he's prepared to come on and give us 10 minutes of his time and talk around a new venture that he's looking at, which looks very encouraging. Good evening, Craig. How are you?
Oh, now it's my turn. I've muted him. Sorry, Craig. How are you, Craig?
Mate, I'm very well. I think I look a little bit out of place with all the headphones that I'm seeing kicking about there in front of me. But no, thanks for having us on. Look, it has been busy times, obviously, since kind of galvanised the golden generation and putting what we believe to be a strong group together. So that's been really exciting and been plenty of debate, which is always good for the game, we believe.
Now, Craig, we had you on, it's almost about 7 weeks, 8 weeks ago, if not
7
more.
weeks, yeah.
Yeah, 7 weeks. So a lot has changed, and it's great to see that a lot of the things that we talked about back then are actually starting to happen, whether it's in the coaching development side of things, the player development. But the big one is the administration side of things and the overall, I guess, media platform and the media landscape. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's happened is obviously the hot-cold relationship with current broadcaster Fox Sports and the uncertainty, not just with football, but with live sport in general in this country. But as part of the golden generation, you collectively had a very, very interesting proposal, which was released during the week about an FFA-TV style concept. Tell us a lot more about this, because I, for one, am so excited about this idea.
You've already subscribed, haven't you, Tonci?
Yeah,
already.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, you're saying that it's very, very interesting. I mean, for me, the interesting thing was that I go back to Europe pretty much every year, and 3 years ago, I spoke with the Scottish FA vice president, and he said, "Maury," he says, "mainstream broadcast is coming to an end of an era." So already 3 years ago, for me, there's a thought process of what's the future of our game going to look like? And we know that at the moment there's a lot of discussions around about broadcast, and certainly not privy to the live updated version of what that is. But what we wanted to do was spark debate around about what the future of the game can look like, and how you can certainly be involved in growing your own platform, therefore having ownership and not be dictated to by broadcast. So, for example, we're talking about potentially winter football, in the future, and what that looks like. If you own your own content and therefore can make your own decisions, that makes things a lot easier. And again, I think with some of the information that we've come out with around about the member federations, I want to be clear that we're not saying that the member federations are not needed. Because they've obviously done a wonderful job in the space of community football, junior, grassroots, and the participation levels are high because of the work that the member federations have done. What we are saying, though, and it's pretty loud from us and also from a lot of people within the football community, is the layers of administration that are currently in place can certainly be streamlined, which then can flow back to the clubs and the participants to be able to reduce the costs. From that's when you can go and look down the lines of that subscription model of money that's already being paid, but towards some platform that actually you have ownership of.
Yeah, and that part of the platform, and I read the document that you part of came through on an email actually.
How nice you got it, yeah.
Sorry.
I says, nice, you got it, did you?
Yeah. But it was all around, you know, there would be a registration, a little bit like Netflix. I suppose that's ultimately where what you're thinking is you subscribe to it, and it's all football around Australia is shown via this this model. Is that correct?
Yeah, and you look. I mean, look. I listen to Talk Sport quite a lot, so I'm sure if you have listened to that, you would have heard Simon Jordan talking along the lines of this Netflix kind of scenario for the EPL for a long, long time. And you look at in terms of what that can deliver in terms of your own content. You look at the documentary recently with Michael Jordan and the amount of interest that's gathered. So when you're able to sell and drive your own content, your own stories, it just gives us what we believe a far bigger opportunity for football in this country to engage with all. We keep talking about trying to get on the same page and rowing in the same direction, yet we're still not really engaging, for me, in our opinion, the whole of football, because there is great interest in the game. I mean, I believe from the first round of the NPL in Victoria, I believe there was over 120,000, 130,000 in terms of the streaming. So the interest is out there, and it's just what that is going to look like in the future. If what Fox come up with is not suitable for the game to be delivered to us to a certain level, and it's going to be too heavy a hit, then it just means that maybe we're looking at this particular situation a lot quicker than maybe what we would have. So it's just more about sparking the debate with a little bit of knowledge and costing behind that. And at the same time, we know that there's a lot of people in that over the top streaming space now that are well equipped and ready to go.
Now, we've seen actually, Craig, up north in the northern states, in Queensland and New South Wales, this year in particular, they actually have got an NPL TV covering those two states. And that was, I guess, driven by the two federations. But obviously something what you're suggesting would be obviously the whole country, and it would cover all gamuts of the sport from coaching clinics and mini roos to magazine style shows and what you're not. I mean, that first roundtable discussion, the Optus Sport roundtable discussion, by the end of the night, when you had Mark Viduka comparing the early A-League to It's a Knockout, that was brilliant entertainment. So, I mean, there's certainly potential, great potential, but I guess that could also open up the corporate element as well, where lots of companies will take out advertisements because they know that they're going to get great exposure. So is that sort of thinking outside the square, was that the catalyst for getting the golden generation together and trying to really, I guess, spread out into the football society as a whole?
Look, I think and Jolly, you would have been part of this, mate. I think what it is you've had such a long period of time where there's been a huge amount of frustration within a lot of football people that we maybe at times don't feel as if the game's headed in the right direction. Or are the big bold calls being made to take our game where it needs to go? So that was kind of the original discussions that kind of took place with the people that are now involved in the golden generation. And look, the golden generation, again, it's a great brand, but it's a name that we didn't give ourselves. Obviously, back in the day, and the media and the fans of Australia have given us that name. So it was mad not to run with that. But look, we just want to find a platform that gives the whole of football. And I keep saying this because I still believe that when I look at football, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of agendas, but as a political party, so to speak, I don't see too many that's out there representing the 2 million so-called participants in the game.
Yeah, good point.
And that is us. You talk, Tonci, about the very first time we spoke on Optus. I think people then were clearly aware that there was no agendas. There was a group of people that were extremely passionate about the game, that have got different skill sets, that have had different upbringings, that have come through different systems within Australia at time, that have gone over and done their bit overseas. We're extremely passionate about taking football forward in this country. And I strongly believe that the importance of being set up outside the tent maintains our voice and for us to be able to keep applying pressure if need be to be able to drive the game forward. Because at times when you're in the inside, you can actually be muzzled as well. So your voice or your ideas, they might be listened to, they might be heard, but if they're not executed, then you're no further forward. So we feel as if we're in a really good position. We're obviously all for the development and a great future for the game. I've been working very closely and speaking regular with James Johnson at the FFA.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're supportive of helping him drive the game forward. That's his big plans and what he would like to do. And we need to get everybody on board. And the Golden Generation is not an exclusive club. We want to be able to be open and have many supporters and members that feel as if that's a platform for them that helps them voice an opinion on the game.
Now, we've got a question here.
The fact that James Johnson is on board with all of this, Craig, shows that, that everybody is getting together and there is a need for change and there is a want for change. So that's highly motivating for everybody. It's not going to happen overnight.
No, that's it. And that's right.
One thing everybody has to step back and think, okay, this is the start of the process. What does it look like in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time? What is it? The future of football in Australia going to be a far, far better place than it currently is? And the answer to that has got to be yes.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So when look, don't get me wrong, we've not got everybody that's 100% supportive of what we're doing, and that's normal. We've had hecklers all our days, and that certainly will continue. But when you strip it back, it's very easy for us because we put the game first. All right, we're not interested in agendas. We're not interested in politics. We want to find the best solutions to be able to take the game forward and represent the whole of football. So when you scale it back and that's your starting point, then it's very, very difficult to knock and try and work against, because we're speaking for the masses.
Now, we've got a question here from Maxi Santich, and he's saying, I guess he's kind of wanting to know more about the FFA-TV proposal. And he asked the question, is it like a pay-per-view streaming service? If so, what is the likely target cost to the consumer? What content will we be able to access? In the actual proposal, there was a kind of a little bit of a carrot that was dangled to registered players, so to speak.
But I don't understand. Okay, I see what you're saying about the dangled carrot. But say, for example, it's $25, for example, which was in that document, per year, not per month, of money that is already being paid through their registration. But at the same time, we're able to try and find a way to break through the administration layers to be able to help clubs and participants pay less.
Okay. Yep.
All right. So I think there was also slight confusion as to who's going to pay $25 a month, and if you're paying for the EPL and you're paying this. If you read the document, it's very clear that it's a figure I've mentioned of $25 per year, which is not additional. It's being paid. It's within the game anyway.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important point that needs to be made, that it's $25 per registered player, but it basically comes out of the registrations. Now, like I said at the start, it may involve entertainment shows, it might involve coaching clinics, it might involve grassroots programs, as well as some of the NPL behind the scenes and what
everything.
We see in Europe in a lot of those people that are lucky to get various internet streaming channels and whatnot. Some of the countries in Europe that are much, much smaller than Australia market-wise have their own 24/7 TV channels and what not. And it's some of the reality shows that they have and anything football related. I mean, if you are a football diehard, you can literally 24/7 douse yourself in football content. And that's the other thing, content, football content. We talked about coaching webinars and what not, but we've started seeing a lot more of that happening, but in the mainstream media, it seems to be less and less. So
there. I mean, like I said, I mean, what we hear and what we've been hearing regularly through COVID, people are desperate for content. For content. So again, if we're in control or there's an ownership some form of ownership, whether it's 100%, but whether there's some ownership of your game, your content, then we're in a far better position. I think that I'm not an expertise when it comes to marketing and how you can commercialize that, how you can turn that into bigger dollars. But obviously it becomes more appealing because you're reaching the whole of the community, and there's that many different components and opportunities for advertising and sponsorship and many different things. You're talking about Kanga Cups, you're talking about high school football, you're talking about loads of different things, and to be able to have a backlog of archives, it's so important, because the game's not always going to be flying in there. What COVID has kind of shown us is that, at times in current society, the world today, we are going to be thrown a curveball at times, and we've got to make sure that we're in a position that we're not so heavily reliant on one thing that can actually take the chair from underneath the sport.
Ivan, did you have a question to ask for Craig?
Not so much a question, but it's more just, I think, and I echo a lot of sentiments from within the game, and that is that it's just great to have that generation and that experience and level of expertise actually echoing and coming up with ideas, because in effect, Maura, that your voice is always going to be louder than the average Joe Blow, such as myself and others. So from my end, it's just a breath of fresh air, and well done on one, having the passion to actually do it, because in the end, as you know, there's nothing in it for you other than a bloody slap in the face at the end of it. But I think it's a credit to you and the guys, not only for joining forces, but to have that voice, because your voice really does resonate within the four walls of the FFA a lot louder than let's say mine or someone else's. And it's not dire, and I don't want to say that, but it's great that we can see that level of commitment from your end.
No, I appreciate that, Jolly. And just another thing, and probably from my learning, even if Craig Moore comes out and says something, I might get publicity today. We might be talking about it tomorrow. Next week it's forgotten about. So for me, the importance of being able to really make a difference from my experiences and the amount of time that I've been back here in Australia, and plus what I knew obviously through coming up, you need a strong group. And that's what we've formed here, and that will continually grow and get stronger. And that way we'll always be in a position where we can represent and be a voice for the game, and it won't get washed away.
I think that's a really important statement you made there. And it's really funny how content, we talked about content, we talk about people being able to voice their opinions. We started this show 9 weeks ago for that exact reason, so people can come on and voice their opinions on stuff. We had no idea. Hand on heart, this is about the show. We had no idea at the start when we spoke about this, how, I wouldn't say big, but how much of an influence it now has on people within Victoria and beyond who listen to the show religiously week in, week out, have their say. That wasn't an option for them previously. So us doing this little tiny show on a Thursday night opens the doors for debate. And that whole first episode of the Opta Sports and every subsequent one since, has just been a breath of fresh air for me to see passionate ex-professional football players who believe in the sport and want to do the right thing all coming together to try and solve the issues that face Australian football in its current state. And that can only be a massive positive for everybody in the country who's a football fan.
Yeah, and like I said, that's where we come from as well. And I understand you've got to go about it in the right way, and I'm big on communication, so it's important that we have sort of like gone through the right channels. And like I said, I had regular dialogue with James Johnson, because it's important. He needs to know that we are a strong group and that we will be behind him. But at the same time, within the game, there still needs to be that accountability. So we can't always be slapping people on the back saying, well done, well done, well done, if nothing's being done.
Yeah.
We've got to get things done. And then I'll tell you what, I'm the first person to pick up the phone and say, mate, absolutely awesome, well done. But we've got to make things happen. Things have actually, Now we're in a situation where from what was perceived to be a negative, I think can be a real positive. COVID has maybe accelerated things. Jolly, I mean, a nightmare for you in terms of club situation, because we're still waiting to hear potentially what next season is going to look like. And then when you start to scratch about and you start to look, I mean, Spain was a country that was heavily hit. And they're already coming back 11th of June to finish their season. They've already got a season start date for next season of the 12th of September. So if there's countries like that have been heavier hit than us, that are already organised, that have already made decisions, that have already got a plan for next season, we've got to be better.
Yeah.
Football community is desperate for that communication. They need guidelines.
Yeah.
They need to be told when we can start, what it looks like. At the moment, it must be very, very difficult, especially for a new club, a new startup like Macarthur. But even for the current A-League clubs, we kind of know or have an idea about what finished up before COVID, teams-wise, is going to look something probably a lot different come the remainder of this season. So, still very interesting to see what's going to play out. But we need some answers, and I think that those answers need to come through a little bit quicker. I know that's all hinged on the discussions with the FFA and Fox, but for the sake of the game, we need a resolution, and we need it quickly.
Absolutely. Gents, thank you very much for your time tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure having you both on. We've had some unbelievably interesting topics and issues that have been brought up over the past hour or so. So once again, we really, really thank you for taking your time and returning to the Football Out West show. Craig, we must be doing something right if these gentlemen are happy to come back on our show. So credit.
Yeah, it's called pestering them every 5 minutes on a text, mate. That's what it's called.
yeah. You shouldn't have given Craig your mobile phone numbers, but that's nonetheless.
Yeah.
We've been speaking to the member of the Golden Generation, former Socceroo legend Craig Moore, and to the current assistant coach of the Matildas and Macarthur FC, Ivan JOLIC. Gentlemen, once again, thank you very much, and a very, very good night.
Have a good evening. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, gents, and keep up the good work.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having.
That was we did build this, that it was going to be a huge night, Craig, that it was really, really going to be very interesting. And some of the topics, Ivan, talked about the coaching mentoring side, the role of technical directors. That was really important. Craig touched on, for me, was really an interesting thing of how there was a high level of frustration that led to those ex-players, ex-legends coming together and chatting. And the fact that Ivan JOLIC was actually right. He said, look, ex-players like Craig Moore or Mark Viduka, when they speak, they're going to be heard. Everyone's going to take heed of what they say. Mark Viduka had been lost to the game for almost a decade. He's come back.
We won't comment, and all of a sudden we've got 11 guys on a golden generation.
On the golden generation. But on top of that, we've also got the head of the administration here in Australia, Football Federation Australia, are now working with these ex-players. The starting 11 was formed, the golden generation. So there's been a lot of talk, and hopefully now the time for talk is over and the time for action is here. So it's look, to me that is really, really exciting.
Yeah, look, it's changing. It's changing, and as I said, it's not going to be now. It's going to happen over a period of time, and we all got to be very, very patient. But the main thing is that we're all, and again, what was the big comment that Maury just came out with? Communication. Yeah. We touched on it on Sunday, and again, it comes down to if the governance and the governing bodies of the sport are in complete communication with its members and its stakeholders, we're not left out to dry. We know what's going on. Now, of course, they can't tell us everything, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks, but keep us informed of what progress is, what progress isn't, where they're going, what they're looking at, what the future looks like. Do we know what the next 5 years look like within Football Federation? We don't at the moment. Is there a plan? I'm sure there is. Come out and tell us what that plan is. Let's be part of it together, but let's grow the sport the way that it is around other countries in the world. We know it's not Australia's number one sport. Let's make it number one sport.
Craig, we're nearly at the end of time. The referee's about to blow the whistle on the 90 minutes. The show's almost gone for 90 minutes today. But before we do leave, this is another exciting moment where we're now, we talked about how out of just a little conversation, this show became a reality, and this forum now has given the people, the footballers of the Western suburbs, a global voice, because what we're talking about now, some of the issues, they're actually global issues that are affecting the game, not just in the western suburbs of Melbourne or Wyndham or Geelong or Ballarat. These are things that are going around the country,
Around the world now, Tonci.
Around the world.
We're not just western suburbs anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're so privileged, so honoured that we can deliver this. And what we are saying to everyone that has supported us in a big, big way, and that's culminated in the last few weeks with the Football Fan Zone Talkback show, which we've also added to our stable, is now we want you to become an even more integral part of our show, and we want you to become members. And tonight we are launching the membership of the Football Out West show. Show your support, become a member of the Football Out West show. What we're asking you to do is visit the following website, www.patreon.com/Football Out West show. And we will, for a very, very nominal monthly fee, it is in US dollars. We need to say this. So $10, $15 or $20. It is a US website, so that we're going through, and a lot of podcasts do subscription or membership models through this organization. They're a fantastic organization. And the money, basically the memberships that we can raise goes towards putting better equipment into this show, like what we've seen with the green screen behind you, Craig. We're working on getting mixers, audio mixers, getting better cameras, getting a better production happening. And you'll see some of the overlays that as well that graphically we've been investing in. So we want this show to move, to progress. And we talked about this at the start of the show. Craig, now we want all of our thousands and thousands of followers and fans to become members of the Football Out West show. And if you don't want to do it for that regular, just give us a donation, just a small donation that you can give at this website down the bottom. The more the merrier, Craig. We want to become a big, happy family, and we're asking all of our supporters to jump on board.
Yeah, look, as we said earlier on, it started off as a bit of fun that's now becoming a little bit more serious for us both, because of the numbers that we keep getting week in. And you can see from the level of guests that we get on a weekly basis that, our clientele and our database is getting bigger and bigger. Our listeners are getting bigger and bigger. Just to give you an idea of what sort of views we're getting, the post that we put up on Sunday evening around the NPL subsidized situation with Football Federation has got over 10,000 views. So it tells us that we've got something that people want. We touched on it just now with Maury. It is a platform for people to have their say on football, especially on a Sunday evening, which is your show. This is your chance to talk about whatever you want football related. But for us to take it now to the next level, we need to find some investment. So we're reaching out to everybody, all of our listeners, to if they can, to dig deep and help us get where we want to be. And that's not trying to be anything that we're not. We just want to provide a quality service to everybody in Victoria.
A big shout out to our big sponsors, George Cross Football Club, Georgie's on Vista. There's 19 people. They're all doing within the social distancing guidelines out at Georgie's on Vista tonight out at Fraser Rise, and they're watching us on the big screen, Craig. So a big cheerio to everyone out there at the George Cross Club. To people like Victor.
We will be up there in a few weeks' time doing our show, Tonci, in 2 weeks' time. We'll be coming live from City Vista.
And to people like Victor Brinkat, who is saying, I don't live in the western suburbs, can I still listen? Mate, we've had people from overseas tuning in. We've had people from interstate as well tuning in. So absolutely you can tune in. And look, speaking about our Sunday night show, the Talkback Show, unfortunately this Sunday being Queen's birthday long weekend and camping grounds open and what you're not, we are actually going to take a break this Sunday night. So hopefully then the following Sunday we'll have even more callers, even more to talk about. And look, at the risk of sounding like I'm blowing my own trumpet or blowing our own trumpet, Craig, every time we've come up with an issue, for example, on last Sunday, we were saying Football Victoria wasn't coming through with the communication, wasn't being clear enough. What happens? We get hit with an avalanche of media releases and updates from Football Victoria.
All right, Mystic Meg, what's your prediction for next week?
What's my prediction? Oh, I don't know. All I know is...
Is it Mystic Meg or Septic Peg? Which one is it?
Who knows?
Who knows?
All I'm going to say is become a member of the show. A big shout out to all of our sponsors in the past, in the future. We've got a couple of sponsors also showing a lot of interest. So we hope to have them coming on board, but become a member. This is one way that you, the folks out there, can show just how much you want to support this forum. That website again, www.patreon.com/Football Out West Show. I do have to mention this gentleman's name because it was his idea. He actually suggested for us to come out and create a membership because other podcasts do something similar. Christopher Cruz suggested we do it. He gave us the idea, gave us the suggestions, and he has now signed up as our first member. He's our silver member. So Christopher Cruz is our number one ticket holder, and he signed up for a $15 a month membership. So Christopher, thank you. If you are listening to this program, thank you very much. And to everyone who has been with us tonight as well, an absolute pleasure. Next week, Craig, big show, another big coaching element to the show. Tell us more about who our special guests are next week, and then say good night to the viewers on behalf of myself and yourself. Good night from me.
Thanks for that, Tonch. So next week, guys, we have another show all around coach education. We think it's massively important, and been trying to get these guys on for quite some time. They have a fantastic program. It's available on Facebook and their website, and we've got Dave Wright, who's the co-founder of the Player Development Program, and Dave will be joined by ex-North Geelong coach, ex-Bournemouth Football Club coach, and is now applying his trade up in Gold Coast. We have James Coots, who will also be joining Dave to talk about the Player Development Program, the mentoring service that they offer, and how you can get involved with their particular business. And it's a fantastic opportunity for you to learn off some really high caliber coaches and mentors. So join us from 7 p.m. next Thursday. And remember, we're not on air this Sunday. We're having a weekend off for the Queen's birthday, but we'll be back live, back in the studio next Thursday at 7 p.m. So take care, stay safe, and we'll see you all next Thursday.
George's on Vista is the local bistro at Fraser Rise in Caroline Springs, situated at the George Cross Soccer Club at City Vista Reserve. With the current COVID-19 pandemic, we've adjusted our menu and our business times. Bistro dining is back with 2 dining sessions Monday to Saturday between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Numbers are limited, so bookings are essential on 7021 0555.